Hi all. Good morning to another meetup for Let's Talk Spatial. There are a lot of new faces for the first time that have attended this. So welcome all. Let me tell you a little bit about what Let's Talk Spatial is. So we started about 2.5 years ago as a small fun activity where a group of geospatial people can come together and share their thoughts, share knowledge. And so far we have been quite successful, as in this is our 19th meetup. Wherein we have conducted across various places across Bangalore, and not just meetups, we have also conducted workshops and taken part in organizing events like Ingars, which happened in Bangalore as well. For this meetup, we are going to have a theme of carbon monitoring and climate change. Previously, we also had a lot of interesting topics ranging from cloud, spatial to even core remote sensing, agriculture, water, and so many other stuff, even edge computing. So all of these can be found on the website. So I'll share, if you want to learn about all these things that people have shared and want to get more insights on. So all these people are only Indian, so you get content or people from across companies in various parts of India. So you can see there's a YouTube channel that we regularly put out the events that we record all these events and then put it on our LinkedIn post and also on our YouTube. So these videos, you can see that we have collaborated with OpenStreetMap as well, and a lot of the events are live. So even this one, you can actually go to our Slack channel, and even if you see, we just now made a post on LinkedIn. So you want to again share it with your friends who want to see it live, can also go to this and then they can see, okay, this event is going live. So if you want to do anything, so we have conducted across the state of the art, whatever is going on, we try to cover that topic. And we also have our website where you will get to know more about the speakers that have taken part previously. So this website is not updated, which was last updated 2023, but we'll make it updated after this event. So you can see we have conducted events across Bangalore, and this is not just a small area. There are a lot of other places that we have covered, and most of these places happened in companies across Bangalore. So you can see we have conducted across various companies. And again, thanks for Varaha for hosting us. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to again gather here and talk about carbon, which they take pioneer. They are pioneer in this space, and we want to thank them to host, and also thanks to Rajni, who coordinated really well with us for making this happen. And to begin with, I just want to make note that we are completely open source. Whatever our stack is, we talk about open source stuff so that we are not you're not confined to one proprietary software. So we also, the organizers of these, are big fan of open source technology, and we are also part of FOSS4G, which happens every year. So even this year, it is going to happen. FOSS4G Global is going to happen in Auckland. So for those who don't know what FOSS4G is, it is free and open source software for geospatial, which is basically people from across the world come to a place and talk about free and open source software for geospatial only. And you would see a lot of videos in their YouTube channel, but it is a different vibe to be at that location. So I would highly encourage for you to come at FOSS4G Global, which is happening in Auckland this year. Otherwise, there is also FOSS4G Asia, which is happening next year in India, in Nashik, and we are part of that organizing team. Myself, even Ujjwal, and a lot of other folks who are not present here are part of the organizing team. Krishna and Jashan, who have taken the lead. So you can join us in helping organize this event, and this is going to be a first FOSS4G Asia after a very, very long time, and would encourage everyone to take part and make it successful. I would tell more about FOSS4G later, but now let's begin with the talks. So for this seminar or for this webinar, we want to have two speakers who are going to talk about carbon markets and also climate change. first speaker is Durga Prasad, who is working at Nika as Chief Carbon Officer. We'll talk about emerging trends in this market and what this landscape has been and what they are trying to do. This is a new startup which is not based in India but is based in Singapore. So there's global spread of folks who have taken initiative of these carbon markets. So I would now request Durga to introduce himself and also talk what he's doing and what are the trends that we see in this market.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
I'm audible, guys? Awesome. Yeah, I'll start with my introduction. I'm Durga Prasad and I studied at ISC in environmental sciences with a lot of focus on remote sensing. But then carbon started to grow and a lot of people who did remote sensing and kind of nature accounting back in like 2019, we found a lot of jobs in carbon, and that's how it's a weird mix of carbon, climate and nature. In my section of the talk, there would be less of spatial, but I mean, we'll have a brief that how many of you are well aware with carbon and spatial, but more of carbon. So just give me a quick hand raise. How many of you directly work with carbon of any sort? Oh, that's really good. I think then I made the right slides. How many of you work full-time with only geospatial? Awesome. I think then it's very helpful, kind of balance of both. Yeah, we are a very small geospatial carbon and sort of software team trying to build at the kind of convergence of web platform that's coming up for the geospatial and kind of integrating the carbon flows within it. So on the core, Nika builds its own platform called Nika Planet, which I'll tell you later about, and it's very helpful to build, deploy, analyze large-scale geospatial data sets, and with the kind of new emergence of AI, very helpful to also query the large language models, especially around the general use case of geospatial. And how does carbon fit into the whole picture? I will also show that, but the change that's happening in the market is moving towards more and more complex methodologies, and geospatial is primarily foundation of how you operate a carbon project. So very helpful in modeling as well. Yeah. So I'll quickly dive into the core topic. That's what are the emerging trends in carbon market. So few things. First is tightening of quality, and to sort of bridge the gap between both geospatial and carbon world. How did this start? I mean, this was pending, but it came through geospatial scientists writing papers from the labs about some project types not doing well, primarily RED+, and that had a huge media blow up that led to sort of a lot of concerns about the quality and a lack of liquidity in the market. And that's kind of fast-tracked the cycle of this tightening on the quality and improvements on the methodology. Methodologies are primarily basis and process on which you build carbon projects. So when tightening starts there, then there are kind of ripple effects throughout the kind of tools and stacks you use. So the tightening caused lack of public trust and a lot of media outrage. Then there were positive sort of improvements as well from a lot of standard bodies like ICVCM, which came up with new sort of rule book on what a good quality project looked like. And that led to a lot of things. First started tightening on the methodology, so sort of kind of fast-tracked the tightening on the methodology side, sort of gave a lot of fuel to new specialized standards to come up with specific use case based methodology which are more kind of rooted in their own expertise of that particular standard. So emergence of isometric Bureau for carbon removal side, and then we are seeing now complete chaos and overhaul across the methodology. So I mean, people who do the project development would know VM48, 47, Regan. So primarily all the nature basis going through this full transformation. And a lot of the geospatial modeling that we do, as well as that's asked in the methodology, is primarily used in nature-based side of the sort of carbon project development. Yeah, the second major trend that we are seeing across the markets, and that's also apparent in data, is that due to this lack of trust that came by because of projects which were nature based and which were more sort of accounting based on the emission avoidance side, not holding their ground well, that led to a lot of mistrust, and then eventually people who were looking to do some sort of offset and buy something, they found some sort of home in CDR, and it was emerging on a whole, but this transformation fueled the emergence a lot, and that we saw this year as well, and then also the previous year. So on a whole, 70% of the net commitment that were put into the market, a lot of them went to 70% of them went to CDR part of it, and almost 20 billion of that went to nature based. So that still hold ground, but again, that's a bit of in the limbo because of the changes that's happening in the methodology. Now, what's to be happening with the CDR demand in the upcoming years, or let's say end of this year or by next year, is also very interesting. So on a whole, there are around 500 buyers. So this is very recent survey that's been concluded. There are 500 odd buyers who are looking to purchase CDR of some sort. And if you look at overall pool of potential buyers which are signatories of SBTI, are around 10,000. And if we even get 10% of them in the fold, that's a huge demand unlock for CDR. And on a whole, we are decently placed, at least on a competitive basis, for the core 2 CDR that are sort of scaling or finding the initial very decent traction. I'll show you with the data later on. Why this happened, that the shift came along to the CDR market more, and sort of avoidance side of market or the nature-based side of market, which are more to do with avoidance, are on a slow progression, is people such as large buyer clubs and big tech prefer to buy small yet more sort of integrity-based reliable credits where there are less sort of drawbacks or less lawsuits on them. I mean, if you are aware of the news, Apple is facing it again now. So to avoid those lawsuits, they primarily going for the CDR, because it's very additional, highly measurable, and on a whole, if you have the data, you can easily replicate it. And the potential SBTI interim removal targets, which are supposed to be announced by end of this year or early next year, is expected to give a small, at least a portfolio basis positions to corporates, so that they can use those and in a systematic way not face the kind of legal repercussions. Now, what would it take, or what would sort of be the core motivations that could increase the demand in CDR space? According to the very recently concluded survey from CDR5, SBTI is, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of very crucial. And if you go below that, more of all the factors are very business oriented. Like if a project is on the desk of a CFO, he would look for ROI for sure, and he would look for what am I getting out of it. And right now there is no very clear answer for him. Big corporates have the sort of liberty to have this small chunk of their overall their corporate strategy to be allocated to carbon removal side, but not everyone is thinking from that lens. So again, it's very important to have a business case, very clear business case. And then there are very important factors like what are the government incentives and the penalties that are coming along. Also very important to see what your peers are doing, as always. And if we look at the intentions and the sort of purchase trends that's happening in the market, what's already been purchased and people are expected to purchase in the short to medium term is more to do with BCCS or biochar, a good chunk of it ERW as well. So these are I think maybe we can just pick biochar in the ERW, where we as Indian CDR space has done fairly competitive. I mean, we have 3-4 companies now who are trying to register their first of their kind projects from India under isometric and Puro. And biochar, we have decent number of players in the market now. They have their own pitfalls. I've very actively worked on the biochar as well as enhanced weathering. So first of its kind market that's being built, and then the sort of projects that's being developed. But we are on a very solid ground as a space that's trying to do these two project types. Other project types which are to do with very high tech kind of removals and all those aspects, not so much so, because the ticket sizes to enter those markets are like really high, and we haven't seen any large scale pilot or their sort come in on the direct air capture side of things. But on a whole, the data is pointing on the short to medium term that we are on the right track, and the focus on biochar and rock weathering and maybe bioenergy, carbon capture, common utilization is also not a bad idea. And if you look at biochar data, 86% of the deliveries that happened in 2024 were biochar based. So on a whole, biochar is still the one that's delivering. So all others are more of promises as of now. And on the demand side as well, a lot of biochar supply for 2025 and 2026 is already sort of pre-locked. That's a very strong signal for also upcoming demand, and that also sort of indicates that the buyers are also finding comfort on the side of integrity as well as maturity on the price side. I mean, not a kind of, you would say, perfect maturity, as there are other data sets which have shown that if the prices were to go around 120, that would be the ideal sort of place for biochar to operate. But I mean, still there is comfort to seek almost 86% of net CDR demand for biochar, and that's very positive, I think, overall for the CDR space. Yeah, as a whole on the Indian CDR side, there are very few people, or there are very few buyers who can fund the megaton scale high-tech removals. So the current first wave that we are seeing in the market, or first wave of purchases that are happening, are more very large corporations with a lot of liberty to play and to sort of test these ideas for a while, and if that fits into their own sort of net zero approaches, that's what they are doing. But if we want to broaden the base and scale, the next wave of buyers would ask for very competitive prices, and I mean, very competitive prices and sort of decent push from the policy side as well, because that's one of the way to bring them in the fold. So what is expected on that side is, if you invest a lot on the high tech removal side, you might not be very competitive as long as you don't have government incentives for at least few years to support that sort of R&D optimization and cost cuts. So as it, in opinionated way, we are better off focusing on the biochar as well as rock weathering. Now, I have worked fairly with ERW and the biochar project developers now in India, and the very interesting contrast of how Indian ecosystem is evolving as how Western ecosystem is evolving is very apparent. I mean, this more of talks and less from the slides. I'll tell you the contrast that I have noticed. We as a country first of all, these methods are very test heavy. That's you have to take a lot of these samples to the lab and analyze, and we don't have the infra scale to do these tests. So there are barely 10 institutions in India who can sort of even have the operational machines to run an end-to-end pilot through and then analyze the samples. So there is then large-scale deployment of sort of lab infra is still pending. And then there is another side of the equation, which is human resource. How many people are there, or how many PhD programs are there which train people in geochemistry for, let's say, biochar, or which train people in soil and the biochar sort of interactions, and the emergence of decent use cases on the biochar side, maybe like integration in the building materials or use of it as a fuel. There are very few actual places where the actual PhD programs are happening on this, and where are we expecting to get the human resource from if the PhD programs are not training the next iteration of PhD sort of talent? I mean, because I studied at IISc, and I've been very closely working with labs on ERW projects and the biochar projects as well, and this is a major sort of step or major blocker that's there for all of us. Now, there are very innovative solutions, but the power to bring those solutions are primarily with registries, because they operate the ecosystem of certification and all the trust building around a project type. So on a overall system level, or on a sort of market level, Indian market would be way better off through partnerships than through competition, because there is enough rock, there is enough land, and if you set up good partnerships for the lab infra, it's a cost optimized way to sort of scale. And if you look on the trajectory as a whole, we are already at a lot of spaces which are not very competition friendly, in the sense, if you look at major countries which are funding the CDR space, they have some sort of I will talk more about it, but they have some sort of tax programs or some sort of integrations which are already providing some level of base pricing to the sort of these financial instruments, if I can say. I mean, that would be a bit of stretch, but they do hold a financial value. There is already a base price, and when there is a base price, there is a support. There is a tendency to leverage it on the sort of debt side, or on the sort of using it as a derivative instrument. But in India, we haven't seen that yet, and I'm not expecting that we'll have that in a while. And that's going to be very interesting how would that play out, because all the, let's say in the 5 years, all the decent players have set up their own sort of pie in the market, whether it's registries or government with their own tax incentives and large players. The system level disadvantage that Indian players would have just because there is no base price is quite interesting. But India has all the right motivations to do it if sort of we approach it as a sector. And I will tell you what are the motivations. We are going into a bit of policy side. So there is already a long-term trend of convergence between voluntary and carbon market. So if we look at all the spatial, all the modeling, and all those all the tools and softwares we make, their side of demand, especially the new unlock of demand, which is from nature accounting side and then the use case side, where would it come from? It would primarily come from carbon markets or some sort of climate risk assessment side of things. There are 2-3 new markets or sort of new approaches that are opening for us, and this being one of very interesting, that the ETS or regulatory market, which is a stick for the governments to use against heavy polluters, had some convergence in 2008 or 12 around that duration, but that was a very bad marriage. and very quickly it ended really bad, and now that's happening again, and this time it's very deliberate and slow, so hopefully this will sustain. And the prime candidate to integrate first with this sort of between a voluntary and a sort of regulatory space is already set under Article 6.2 and 6.4, that few of these selective credits from the voluntary space are already allowed, if they are authorized, to be traded and transacted and sort of be treated very similar to how would you treat a sort of regulated credit, but in a bit of different framework, but still that gives a regulatory stick and sort of incentives to work with it. And that's very interesting, and this is very new development, like COP29 or 28 around these two. So how this turn out is very interesting. Again, if you look at across other countries, Singapore already allows a list of credits under its Singapore carbon tax. So not a very decent price you would expect for CDR, for a sort of long permanent CDR. But I mean, still it's a good to have, especially it's competitive for nature-based CDRs. You are operating under around $20 to $50, and you have a base price there. So countries who have already signed MOUs with Singapore, they would see more activities in the long run now. And if you look at other places like Australia, South Korea, they also have this some convergence between voluntary space and the regulatory space. Now, as a CDR market in India on this side is at very interesting point. That is because on one side government have huge incentives to build this overall trading system really well, because there is direct trade pressure from CBAM and the ongoing trade negotiations with UK and US. So carbon pricing is coming along, and what's missing on high level is general integration that could happen between the CDR and overall ETS space. I mean, you wouldn't want to start with integrating avoidance at first, but I mean, it's a good idea now because EU is already exploring to integrate some CDRs into its own ETS space in the next iteration. So we are just building the markets, and it's not yet even finalized. Very good space to push for it, but very very little sort of space it has found. One of the very core reason and not very often said is, if India were to, let's say tomorrow, think of integrating CDR, whether it's nature-based or high-end CDR with longer permanence, which registry they would choose? We all know, I mean, at least on very high probability side, that international registries won't be allowed. I mean, let's say you don't allow Varaha and gold standard, there's not much CDR happening there. But if you don't allow isometric and Puro, and you built your lot of pre sort of credit work there, and you issued a lot of credits there, now it's another hassle that how would you transition, and is the science sort of policy making space fast enough to bring the methodologies under Indian own program, under Indian ETS? Very doubtful. So in a small groups, the talks are already happening that how can we bring maybe the most credible institutions like IITs and ISCs on an infra level, that is the professors and the labs provides the base infra as well as operational know-how. So you sort of concentrate the science and the lab side of these things to a different entity which is expert in these things, and then you move more project development side to operational companies and sort of places where actual VCs can fund. And this is not very new idea as a whole. I mean, haven't been explored but already happening in nature-based market. So just to take you a few, like 2-3 years back, if you were to develop a RED Plus project, you would get a remote sensing team and you would do the spatial analysis of the risk that the RED Plus project is facing, and you'll have a lot of liberties on how you can allocate the risk around your project. People would take a very liberal view on it and allocate it on a very sort of top ends or even way beyond it, and that led to a lot of overissuance. So what Varaha created is a new very specific entity called data service providers, and these data service providers are experts, are expert remote sensing companies, which opened a new segment on a whole for remote sensing software providers or data analysts to work with. And these expert set of companies, now they give the risk and the modeling data to the projects. And if we take this similar approach and parallel to the CDR market within India, then the top labs and the top institutions become underwriters of a lab and the methodology and science side of it. And we as project development side folks, or who are developing startups, Varaha being one of them, can focus more on the project development. I mean, let's say we are fine to do biochar and ERW within the companies, but market is not just limited to two. Tomorrow you want to go to subsidiary project types, or you want to scale. How easy it is to invest in the new sort of human resource for that science, which is very difficult to get on the first place, and then sort of scale that side. So this is a potential approach that's being now, at least on a preliminary level, being discussed. How can we bring this umbrella sort of network and leverage more of what little we have. Now I'll come to more sort of spatial side of it. So why the overall, that's the shift that's coming in the methodologies or on the sort of integrity. At its very foundation is better modeling, and better modeling overall is better geospatial analysis. I mean, there is a component of data collection, but most of the geospatial scientists who had sort of standardized education, we all take courses in how to do forest biomass inventory or soil data collection and all those things, and that's almost all of it. If I won't say almost 80% of it, that's the data that you collect on the ground, and then you take it on the modeling side. So if you were to develop a RED Plus project, you would model Karnataka as a whole and derive its agents of deforestation that those are working in Karnataka, and then allocate those agent risk to a very specific project. That's the area that you are trying to conserve. So on a whole, it's nothing but a spatial modeling problem. Similarly, on afforestation, there is a new methodology called VM47, and it at its core is dynamic baselining. So again, very similar. You make one area as control, and then you treat your project as treatment, and now you've given a dose to your treatment, that is, you are planting trees, and you've not done anything with the control. So how the treatment would perform? Ideally, if your dose is correct, that's the trees that you planted do as you expect. There should be biomass accumulation in those trees, and you have to check that biomass accumulation with control, and if there is some biomass accumulation in control that's happening, then you have to discount it with your treatment for sure. Again, coming back to basics, on base is again very geospatial problem. That is, how do you choose very similar areas to your treatment, which can be allocated to controls? So you use terrain, you use slope, you use soil conditions, then you use proximity to different potential agents, maybe roads, water bodies, and all those things. And wherever you find the most match between your treatment area and your control area, that becomes your sort of pair. And if we move to soil carbon modeling, which is again a very interesting space now. It was on sort of a hold for last 4 years, and now there's decent amount of activities happening. So there's a second project that's being registered in a methodology called VM42, and under that methodology you go and collect soil samples at various locations, which is a statistical collection. And when you bring those samples back, and if you want to deduce what happened with those samples, there is an aspect of biogeochemical modeling there, but a lot of things are also underpinned in the spatial analysis that you do for correlation of that biogeochemistry that's happening within the soil to overall your issuance and the uncertainties. Same for ERW. It's more of a lab project type. That's you take samples, you take water, take them to lab, and then do a thorough analysis. But then again, to come back at the project level results, you need geospatial modeling. So very, very core part of it. All across all the project types, whether it's biochar or whether any other project type, traceability throughout their sort of life cycle analysis, that's throughout their LCA boundaries, is primarily geospatial. So what we do as a company is we are sort of a reimagination of how would you build a modern platform. So we borrow these ideas or sort of take inspiration from these ideas from the best we had in past decade, or we still use them very much. Google Earth Engine seems like Google made it and then they forgot about it, that they have something. It's a phenomenal product, but nothing moved on it from past 10 years since I'm using it. When we started using it, I truly felt like this is the true power. You don't have to download anything, and then you can write code and you can do everything and then sort of automate everything. But then they're very slow progress, and that's pretty understandable because it's a free product from Google side. They might not take it very seriously. On the other side, we rely a lot on Colab or Jupyter environment, but then they have their own problems. They are not built for geospatial. That's how we hook in some visualization library or some sort of persistent database to keep all those things intact and work without falling. And when we choose to work in any sort of Colab or any sort of Jupyter environment, then we pretty much lose the power of QGIS or ArcGIS, because you would want to bring the maps back to some sort of desktop software, whether through your database integration or directly downloading them, and sort of have some visualization and decent inspection on it. And now when there is a very apparent shift in platform, potentially that's about to, maybe this year, next year, there has to be some progress in the geospatial side of large language model, right? We have seen it. We are seeing it in healthcare. We are seeing it in biosciences. We are seeing it in language. We saw it very early. But there are decent models. We have tried few, but that breakthrough product, I hope that would happen in 2 years, and there would be many of them because use cases are many for sort of our side of geospatial. So climate use cases, then there are agriculture use cases and general nature monitoring use cases. So again, you need a very decent spatial platform where you can where you can use these models efficiently, and you don't lose the power of last 2-3 decades. That's desktop softwares and all those things. That's what we are trying to build. I'll just show you a 30 seconds view of it, and that would end my talk. So this is an integrated environment where there is a Colab or sort of Jupyter notebook style of coding, and then there is persistent database which you can integrate your own or use the existing database, and then you can work with the as many notebooks as you want. You can integrate all these things within it, and to sort of not be limited by your machine size, you can hook as large of a machine as you want, and as use case optimized machine as you want. So if you are chasing more GPUs, you can hook more GPUs and just work within a single environment. Then there is a map view that you don't have to rely on just plugins, and have a consistent map view that's also integrated, and all of it is persistence. That is, if you share the same notebook or the same environment with your colleagues, all of you can work within the same environment and still see the same thing like what we do in Google Docs. And on the map view side, you still don't have to lose the power of the traditional software, traditional desktop side. That's you can edit them, and then you can sort of play with the attribute tables and play with the different functions, like all the functions, centroids, buffers, and all those things. All of these are integrated within it. And at the platform shift side, that's primarily the integration of AI to all of it. That is, if you had a notebook and now you want to have a custom function or a custom web page, instead of going through the pain of creating the web page, it's just a prompt away. And I mean, that's yet to come, very hard figuring out, but it will be there. So the full notebook can be converted to a custom function which is callable on a prompt, and it could be deployed on any web page, which is sort of like the power of plugins, but on a way easier way. But why we show it as notebook style is, I mean, there are very few geospatial people who work with directly with the .py files. I mean, not as long as you don't want to deploy it, you would primarily be working in the notebooks. So that's the primary reason. But it's a VS Code style, so you can work with any sort of file extensions, and it would be very much same.
So essentially, this is for project developer to bring their assets. You will make these analysis ready for them and share the results in a notebook style.
So in general, the product is for a wider geospatial use. But how it's been used in the Carbon is that we pre-wrote few algorithms, let's say for VM48 dynamic baselining. Now that algorithm is deployed as a function. So basically that's like a plugin within the system. So all you do is bring the prerequisite data sets and pass it through the plugin. So it's like an internal tool for us as well to build this new set of plugins, and that's what we are expecting, that eventually right now there are a lot of people for different use cases pay a heavy sum for a weird plugin that just do the pen sharpening, and you don't have to pay it on the use, or maybe someone else does it better. You can open source use case, you can just hook the open source plugin and use it.
So what's the next when it comes to user interface? How do you take it?
The next step, that's like maybe 2 months down the line for us, is web pages. That is, you wrote a notebook, you had maps. Now you would want to put it in a very decent ArcGIS, web ArcGIS sort of format, but not so painfully. That is, you have the code, you have the output files. Now you do very standard form of analysis on them. At least you will have a standard templated versions of analysis ready, Now if you want to play with it, and just few prompts and maybe few lines of code on your notebook side, and then you have a working page. That's the idea. We already have it for custom use cases, but that would be anyone can use kind of a general use case.
So one more question: are you in touch with like Google? Do you see these kind of plugins can be made available on Earth Engine directly? I mean, is that any kind of progress happening on that front?
We are too small for Google, I guess, but would love to get in.
I mean, there's that Earth Engine apps, right? So
Yes.
Can that be? I mean, are there any progress happening on that front? Because I see everyone makes these apps, but Earth Engine is like developed independently. Would love to see.
Earth Engine apps are, I've used them occasionally, but they're very limited in, they're more being used as show the data kind of platform. So you can input a shapefile, sure, but still very limited in how they operate. What we are trying to do is, we take a lot of inspiration from Earth Engine. If we take the few decisions that Earth Engine made, maybe like let's say not go for JavaScript and like use maybe Python, but I think we are talking about 2014-15 made sense. But now instead of making the static map or sort of dynamic maps, but not of very much value, more of like a communication tool, I think that's what Earth Engine wanted out of it. But for us, what we want out of it is like if you are a medium or a small software company and you make your own software for a very specific use case, so you don't have to go through all the DevOps or all the sides of it. You can code it, and that tool is as usable as your internal tool would be, because then you are not using on 20,000 requests per second. You're probably using 100 people, 500 people. That's it.
So how do you scale your compute? Is it through cloud functions or VMs or like Dask? What do you use as?
So first idea was to use cloud functions and then Lambda and then scale it, but most times we don't need it. So the primary architecture, you can get as large of a VM as you want and as optimized VM. So you're doing a lot of downloads, maybe optimize it for downloads. That sort of VM. But on the deployment side, that's where you can use Lambdas to scale with Dask or any other parallelization library you want to use.
So is it not a cloud-based?
Sorry?
Is it cloud-based or not?
Yeah, all of it is cloud-based.
You said Lambda. Lambda is just time restriction of 50 minutes. If I have to train something more than 50 minutes, then?
Currently the primary use case that we are tackling is not very large, right? First, let's just replace the pain of setting your own Jupyter Notebook environment and then setting a persistent database and then working it, sharing it within the company. And then if you want to deploy it, you can use these small scale deployment functions. And eventually, if you want to like really scale, maybe that would be a place where people would just build their own, or maybe would optimize for that. But I think if the user want to really scale on analysis side, then we would work on it. But if you want to scale it on getting more user side, then probably they'll build their own.
So I would like to understand more about this carbon market part, where you are talking about biochar, biomass, and also you touched upon soil organic carbon. So what forms of carbon are traded generally? Like, it's not very clear for me.
Yeah, carbon market as a whole has two class of credits. One is called avoidance, one is called removal. Avoidance is you were doing something, let's say you were taking your car, and instead of taking your car, now you walk. So you avoided that emission. So that's avoidance. That's more calculative. That's how would I know that you would walk? Maybe anyway you would have walked. So that's why there is a bit of speculation and there's sort of accounting tricks you can play. But then second type is removal, wherein you suck carbon out of atmosphere and store it, and that kind of you're drawing carbon from the atmosphere could be directly or through mediums like plants are very good at it, and then you basically store the plant in biochar or something. So these are two broad class of distinctions, but then under each of them there are use specific. Like instead of you walking in the car example, maybe now we talk about your factory. So you are supposed to burn coal, but now you are burning biomass, which is more renewable. So that's like that becomes the same avoidance. And instead of you using biochar as a medium to store, and now you're just putting a large machine which is using a lot of energy to directly draw CO2 from atmosphere. So these are two distinctions, and the pricing there depends on the no one knows, like, but I mean at least it depends on the input cost somehow. So the high end things, like which are machine side of things, are very expensive, around $1,000 per credit, and then low side few dollars. Keeps on changing because there are a lot of issues on how these projects are generated and credits are created. So that undercuts few decent prices, but yeah, generally that's how it operates.
What type of satellite tiles are you using, like, and from where are you procuring them?
Yeah, very good question. We use any place that has API that can be integrated. So we don't have the infra and sort of costs to take up to have our own sort of database for it. So, but there are already a lot of work being done on that side. AWS has decent, then all the Sentinel programs have NetSec programs.
But they are like very limited to 10 meter or say like that way, right? If we want precise data, then we would need more accurate, like smaller zoom level tiles, right? So
Yes.
what
Are you talking about the base map side of it, or more like buying the data? So if you are buying the data, few of them have APIs. So that's like it's a code, so you can directly integrate it. So
they are very expensive.
they are very expensive. That's why I mean when we have what use cases we have seen, even if someone is buying, they pretty much download it and then drag and drop. But that's not the optimal way. Ideal would be everyone has API.
But many of the patches that we are looking for, like say we have 10 shape files right throughout India, and it would be scattered among various places, and we would require various different tiles that would need to be clubbed together, and then we would need to run like data, like code on it, right, to calculate some indices. So how are you trying to solve that?
Yeah, very. So if your data provider has API, so you plug it in and you schedule your API sort of calls as you want, and then you have the data coming to your data integration. We have the data integration inbuilt. You use it, data coming to it, and then you have a pre-built function that's running on it. So it's very much like what you are doing, but as a company, if you were to build it independently, it's like a lot of cost. You're getting everything outside, and the learning curve is very kind of, it's very normal. It's like using Google Colab.
And who are you using as data provider?
I mean, we don't. Or the public data, everyone knows the data providers, but for the paid data, we don't have any such agreement like that. Use your data. So users decide what they want to use. If they bring an API, then they can integrate.
So I could integrate my APIs or a third-party API into your product and get the base data so that I could get a really high accurate output as well.
Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks for the very informative presentation. I have been having this question since I found the representative from Nika.eco. Saw your LinkedIn post where you drop a shape file and you get a carbon credits approximation from there. Could you give us an understanding of how it is being done?
Yeah, so we wrote the algorithms. There's notebook. Then the notebook is deployed as a function within the AI callable function. So the shape file you draw is dropped in the window of that sort of environment, and then runs through that function. Then it runs for evaluate the numbers. So we did the comparison between if you use the where I should tool and our side of it. It's way easier in the sense you just write it once and you can check it for 20, 30 areas instead of getting the image again for the Varaha side and then getting the risk map again. So we sort of automated. And that's why I we do decent amount of consulting specifically for difficult side of project types, like on the CDR as well as the nature-based side. There's more dynamic reasoning or red plus side where there is actual use of remote sensing. So that's where we are consulting. That's been built it up.
Just a small question related to what she just asked. So all your data is considered only satellite-based input, or are you also, like your platform supports a three-dimensional data such as a LiDAR as a loop?
Yeah, we had a view of building the LiDAR visualization as well, but we saw few startups who built it and then didn't do well. I mean, we figured out a few reasons why, because all the large LiDAR providers or the LiDAR users, they have in-house servers and they stack hard drives like you would stack your food, and so it's very hard to compete with that. So we that's on the roadmap, but that's it. At least from our understanding, and we had a lot of discussion with these users, would only come when there is a kind of very significant delta over the usability that would come from platform itself, that more AI side instead of just the LiDAR ones, because they are very thorough with all the LiDAR tools. They have a very decent trained staff who can do very fast analysis. So if there's development on the that side, I think then it becomes more interesting. But there's on the roadmap to have 3D visualizations, at least on decent scale, not even if it's not a very large scale visualization.
Just one final question. What's your average like processing times looks like? For example, let's say you take like a district, like a large area, and what's your like average processing time and like data collection? From data collection, how much time it is taking like, to process it?
So I mean, on the platform side, average data analysis time is machine dependent. So you can choose the machine you want and like how you wrote the code. So just to give you example, so we had a very interesting open source library, and there are few users of it. So it would take them 7 days to run a decent like 10-12 image sentinel image patch of ocean analysis. And there's more of oceanside library. It would take 7 days to run it for a year of analysis. Now on a platform, what we can provide is more compute, but I mean, if we can provide the right environment, and the environment you have to use it with more sort of optimized code to start with. I mean, if you have 12 or million cores and then you are just still doing the single thread, then there is no point. So when we wrote the code again, specifically that parallelization part of it, now it's been done in 25 minutes. So it's a kind of mix of using the infra well, and then sort of also what sort of the base you are starting at. But you can pick a larger machine. So if you are doing more GPU oriented work, then you can pick more GPU cores. If you're doing more download side, then more download.
How big was the machine like which reduced the timing you mentioned?
That was the sort of reduction that happened there. So we are using 4 machines there, but it's more to do with how you parallelize between those 4 machines. So we were using 4 machines on the deployment side of it, but the parallelization was very, very important, because for all the 4 machines we are using almost all cores.
Okay, so which GPU-based programming library you use, like CUDA, OpenCL?
You can. So CUDA is integrated within the platform, but if you want your side optimized kind of library set, so libraries are like very much pip installable. But on the base, if you want to, like for example, in the Geospatial, like we face GDAL, so it doesn't work anywhere. I mean, it works, but I mean it's a pain to set it up for at least for few machines. Then like those libraries are integrated already. Like you can use GDAL different versions. Also, CUDA is integrated on GPU side.
So it's up to the user who want to write the kernel according to the hardware, right?
The almost most of that would normal user would need. the kernel is already written. So, but if you have very high end specific requirements, either we would do it, or anyone, if you know, you can do it. So it's like it's there. So you would also get the kernel access facility within next 2 months. So you would have almost on the machine level kernel access.
Thank you so much. We'll have more questions after the talk, during the networking session. But meanwhile, thank you so much, Durga, for your excellent presentation and giving us. If you have more questions, feel free to get in touch with him after the second talk, while during the networking. So before we move on, we'll have an introduction session where we'll get to know everyone who is here. But I'll just take a small moment to thank Varaha team again for making the arrangements so well, and thank you to the CTO. So Vishal, who is here, thank you so much for making the arrangement. Beautiful arrangement, and there are a lot of seats for making this arrangement. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you guys do, and in general, like how did you get involved in? Are you also involved in open source, or maybe you can talk a little bit about?
I think the team actually raised this entirely. All credit goes to Rajani. I'll anyways talk, but I think this is a community-driven event. I'll let the event pass by, and towards the end I'll perhaps talk, right? So, but I think the entire credit goes to Rajani. So I would rather have her take the limelight than me. So perhaps you can continue the event, and then later I'll address the.
Sure. Thank you so much. So maybe we can start with the introduction from maybe the left. You could introduce and what do you do, and so anything special you want to talk about?
Sure. Yeah. So myself, Aravind. So I lead ARR team in Varaha, especially remote sensing side of it. So basically a principal engineer who's having 10 years of experience in remote sensing. So that's my brief background. Yeah. Happy to connect with you guys.
Yeah. So myself is Goku, and I'm working with a company called Sagri, which is Japanese-based carbon company. And we are just very new in this space, and we are starting to develop our products here. And I work as a senior software engineer over there, and I have around 9 years of experience with geospatial development.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Gautam. I'm from SkyServe. So I lead the business development and strategy at SkyServe. So what we do at SkyServe is we are a edge AI company. So all the geospatial models that you develop, or AI models that you develop for different kind of use cases, what we enable them is to be deployed on board the satellite. So it can run on board the satellite and give real-time analytics to you on the ground. So instead of getting raw imagery from the satellite, you get analytics directly for catering to a lot of disaster and defense use cases. Yeah, that's what we do.
Myself, Deepak. I'm lead scientist in Propin Technology Solutions, and my work mostly are towards the agriculture monitoring, including plot level intelligence and also at regional level intelligence, where we do crop classifications and field estimations. And I have my colleague Aravind here, and my ex-colleagues are Nathan and Aravind.
Hi, myself Janardhan. I'm working in Varaha as a geospatial data scientist. So I work mainly on ARR projects, the remote sensing parts and all. And I have probably 6 years of experience in this field.
Hello everyone, myself Ashish. I work as a consultant in KMS Consultants, so it's a carbon consultant firm. So I have 2 years of experience in this field, so I also usually work on ARR and RED projects.
Hello everyone, I'm Yashas. I'm working as GIS engineer at Skylar Drones.
I'm Ujjwal Rani. I run a company called Spatial Thoughts, helping people learn and master geospatial technologies, focus on Earth Engine, LiDAR, QGIS, and Python. And glad to be here. Long time, was based in Bangalore, now not anymore. I'm in Ahmedabad, but this week I was visiting, so I took the chance and glad to be here.
Yeah, I am working as a freelancer, mostly on the remote sensing and geospatial side. I have 8 years of experience.
and I'm one of the co-organizers of the Let's Talk Special events, along with Aman, Amul, and some of those who are not here, but before of it.
Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Aravind SP. I'm working as a research scientist in Geosciences Group, NRSC ISRO. Today I'm very fortunate, after 6 months we are having letstalkspatial, and all the co-organizers have found their better halves. Hope so at a higher temporal resolution the letstalkspatial happens. And I'm very fortunate Usually Gandhi sir is here who has structured my geospatial career. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe it could have stopped due to the cloud cover.
Hi, myself Dimple. I work as a geospatial engineer in Pixel Space, and my major role is creating a bridge between geospatial scientists and software engineers, and it's been 4.5 years. So yeah, thank you.
Hello, this is Samrat, a recent graduate from Durga. So I'm working as a data scientist at Galaxy Space. So there I'll be working on building ML applications on optical and SAR imaging mostly.
Hi, I'm Sriri. I work here in Galaxy Space as a geospatial engineer. I'm mainly working geospatial data processing and a bit of AI and ML part.
Everyone, I'm Ravind, and I lead AI stuff with Cropping, work with Deepak. So probably the least educated person as far as remote sensing or any of these things go. Happy to let you know. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chaitanya. I'm working in NextNav for the last 3 years. So I have around 16 years of experience in geospatial software and everything. I'm a member of Open Source Geospatial India, and this I use for software everywhere. I'm excited to be here and thank Varaha for organizing this.
Hi everyone, this is Ramesh. I'm a backend developer at Varaha. I've been doing Varaha for about almost 3 years now. So we mostly work in data pipeline, data gathering, and my work mainly involves in Django and Fast.
Hello everyone, I'm Vijay Kumar. I'm currently working as an ML engineer in Varaha. So basically I handle mostly ML and DL part.
Hi everyone, I'm Subir. I'm working as a lead data scientist at Omitra, and I'm working on soil organic carbon modeling using remote sensing.
Hello, I'm Ellen. I'm independent consultant and research. I'm also doing work across some domains like agriculture. I've worked on some urban things. Currently working more on the urban side. Yeah, so it's a mix of data science and remote sensing. And on site, I also like to review manuscripts, like with some geospatial, commenting on the text and testing the code. That's also something that I like as more as a hobby.
Hi guys, I'm Vishnu. I work as a geospatial GIS engineer at Hyperworks Imaging. So my background is optical engineering basically, but I transitioned to this space as a research scientist at Aravind University. And right now I'm just enjoying this role and enjoying this meetup.
Nice to meet you all. Myself Shubhadeep, and I'm a PhD in soil science. So right now I'm working as a carbon gas scientist at Meena. I also work with ISRO to develop two biomass model. So yeah, thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Apurva. I work as a GIS engineer in Spatial. My work mainly revolves around using drone data and satellite data for solving various building solutions and solving spatial problems in various sectors like hydrology and solar, etc. So happy to be here.
Hello everyone. So myself Nika, and I'm a backend developer at Varaha. I work with remote sensing team in deployment and scaling all those things. Yeah, remote sensing is new field for me. I'm learning. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Gorangan Nandi from SkySurf. Mainly my role
cater to like developing geospatial applications in downstream applications. As my colleague Gautam mentioned, we enable edge computing for other developers or other geospatial sites. So I'm developing most of the downstream applications to enable edge-based solutions in SkySoft. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for all.
Hi everyone, I'm Brianna. I work as a geospatial data scientist at Varaha. I mainly work in agricultural domain, so cloud classification, agricultural practice mapping and everything.
Hi all, I'm software engineer at Varaha and part-time financial technical.
Hey everyone, I'm also a software engineer at Varaha. But yeah, I build like VMRV and geospatial capabilities for very people.
You can.
Hi everyone, my name is Aravind. I'm working as a Geospatial engineer at Spatial. My role is mostly on renewable sector, like spatial analysis and some other problems.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Saket. So I am a backend developer at Varaha. So my work mostly revolves in like data processing, building APIs for internal dashboards, and yeah.
Hello all, I'm Rajni. I work as a geospatial data scientist at Varaha. My primary focus is crop identification and practice analytics.
Hello all, I am Taraji. I'm an Android developer at Varaha. I just build apps to collect the data required internally.
Hello, so I am Abhishek. I'm a front-end engineer at Varaha, so I actually look after the web applications. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is Aman. I work at Durga. I'm a backend developer at Durga, and we integrate dashboards for like inputs of the data, how the data is evolving, how the data has been gathered.
Yeah, hi, myself Christy. I'm working in Media Services. So I work as a senior modeling analyst. Mostly I work with models. Mostly the insurance people, like property insurance people use for how they.
Hi all, my name is Durga and I currently manage the Indian operations of a US company called AI Geointelligence. We are basically into the realm of NIDA data processing and analytics. And very happy to be getting back to letstalkspatial. As Aravind was saying, there was a long drought of events here. And I'm also happy to see some very old faces here. I was also one of the earliest students of Durga, so very happy to see you in this event.
Hi, first I'm sorry about the name. I'm Sushant. I previously worked in climate analytics, and now I'm working on an open source project for internet. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I'll introduce myself. I'm Aman. I work at Galaxy, and so I mainly take care of. We have different products. I lead the team of both Galaxy Blue and there's another department. So I take care of all these activities are there. So maybe I'll go ahead and first talk about Phos4G Asia that is happening. Again, a lot of faces are not there when I was introducing at the start. I want to brief about what is happening in this space. Phos4G has been going on for about 15 years or so, starting from 2007 or 2008 when QGS, 2007, right? QGS was launched back then. So, I mean, it took limelight then, and now every year this event is happening. Not just every year, the global event is happening every year, but there is Phos4G Asia, Phos4G Europe, and many other continents themselves host these events. Next year, we got the opportunity to host Phos4G Asia in India. That is happening in Nashik, and we would like everyone to take part in this event. It is going to be a huge event for us after a very long time, and also those who are enthusiastic about open source should take part in this. So what
we are going to do in the event at the conference is as follows. So there will be gala dinner. It is basically fun activity for people to network and bond with. This picture you are seeing is FOSS4G Asia that happened previously. It happened in Thailand last year, and previous to that it happened in Korea. So we are very fortunate that it is happening in India next year. So the way it is structured is you have workshops, you have talks, and we also have collaborated with SOTM, which is State of the Map, which is also going to simultaneously have their activities as well. So you'll get to see OpenStreetMap stuff, you'll get to see FOSS stuff, you'll get to see a lot of cloud native stuff. So all these activities where if you want to get away from proprietary software and come to the FOSS world, this is a place to be where you'll get to know a lot of it. Now we also want to invite companies. So there are a lot of companies, people from companies, employees from companies, and also founders from the company who are here. We want to invite them to be part of this activity. Why is it important? Because one is the hires. The top talent come at this event. So when you say FOSS, it is basically you know the internal technology, how code bases work, not just your internal code base, but also open source code base. So that is where you get the top talent to meet. Also, you get to promote your company that you are contributing to FOSS. Also, there are a lot of other companies that also take part in, and you have a name that you are a FOSS company. We have this sponsorships lab. Currently, we are working through. So let me introduce. I am also one of the committee members. Ujjwal is also a committee member. There are two members, who is Krishna and Jashanpreet, who are not in Bangalore, but one is in Nashik and one is in Punjab. All of us and various others. So there is one from Hot OSM and also from Geo Pune. So Dev Datta, who is from Geo Pune, is also part of the organizing committee. So we are very fortunate to host it. So we would require your support for this activity to take part in. Now for attendees who are here, it will be a fun event. You will enjoy it to the most. I have been part myself to FOSS4G Kosovo and to FOSS4G Korea, and I can tell you it is one of the big events, one of the lifetime moment. Forget that I got my better half at this conference. So I cannot tell you that it is just wonderful event. Even if you don't want to attend conferences, you have a lot of fun with the folks who are in this world. Everyone is sweet. So yeah, this is the fees as of now, but you can go through this later as well, and you can contact the Geo Bharat community, who is actually the parent who is organizing this event. So happy to take questions later after the event to talk about this FOSS4G Asia, but this is happening next year, so just keep that in mind. Now let's get going with the second speaker, who is Aravind from Varaha. So he's principal engineer at Varaha, who's taking off data science for code. You can speak if you want to. Otherwise. So yeah, please stay.
Yes. So happy to see a lot of people. I think I'd start my topic by thanking Let's Talk Spatial. I think it's good event. I have heard a lot about it, but I think first time attending it. So thanks to Rajini. So she was coordinating well between us. So asking what is the next steps and all of this. So the coordination was great, and I think you guys did it good. So with that, I'll start my topic. So I'm going to speak mostly on AO and AI for climate-based solutions, right? So the AO and AI is a deadly combination, right? So EO separately or AI separately can solve some problems, but together it is going to rule the entire climate-based solutions, right? So that's the topic I have chosen. The topic of what I'm going to speak today is what Varaha is doing and what are the different technologies Varaha is handling, and I'm going to take a small case study and different challenges what Varaha has faced and how we have solved. And also it's an open community. I just wanted to also take inputs from you guys, what is your thought process, and maybe mutually exchange ideas, right? So it's completely open. So yeah. So let's start. So yes, why are we here? So why are we here is because carbon, right? So carbon is going to rule the next 30, 40 years. It's a big topic. So why it's a big topic? So because 2 years before, so a lot of people have said that we have to go net zero. All the companies has to become net zero by 2040. Mostly Fortune 500 companies has to become net zero by 2040. So in order to do it, when first thing comes up, so a lot of people's energy executives said it is very difficult to do it. So why it is difficult? Because we don't have the technology, we don't have the right solutions in place. So in order to do it, we need technology, right? And also people are so reluctant in using a lot of this technology in this because there is already a systemic approach there in place. People go to the ground, they take photographs, they do all of this, right? So there is already people started not accepting these technologies. But in last 3 years, a lot of things has changed. COP29 and all of this. So there are a lot of SOPs and technology-related documents has been published. The role of EO and AI's importance in the climate solutions, right? So even they have said importance of high resolution imageries, importance of LiDARs, importance of the open source imageries, and you can see like recent days, different organizations like talk about different world organizations, research organizations, they have made their open data, right? So why? To make sure like all the analysis are happening at a high scale, right? So at a very good scale. So what Varaha is doing in this, right? So as we picked up, this is a topic. So Varaha is doing for business. All this as Divya said. So mostly we are working on carbon removals. How we are removing carbons? So one is regenerative agriculture. Growing plants with the regenerative practices will remove carbon from the atmosphere. Second, growing trees. Obviously, trees are the sink for carbon, so it will absorb a lot of carbon. And third is biochar. Biochar is something like taking some invasive species or the harvested plants residues and then do a pyrolysis, and from there like you will get a carbon out of it, right? That's the third part of it. And enhanced rock weathering. So enhanced rock weathering is something like you go and then extract soil, like wherever the mining is happening, take the minerals, which is some good minerals for a agriculture crop to grow, like basalt, you can say one example, right? So take those and then apply to agricultural land. So it will enhance the carbon. It will remove the carbon from the atmosphere, right? So this is all the 4 things we are doing. Yes. So what is our tech stack, and what is the model we have in the system, right? So coming to our tech stack, so as we said, like most of the people are using Google Earth Engine. Our entire tech stack is also Earth Engine. We use GEMAP, and the entire cloud system is based on AWS, and we use different deep learning models. We use YOLOs, we use UNets and all of this. And we also have our in-house no-coding platform, a low-coding platform, we could say. Like, so mostly it is low-coding platform. So when anyone comes with some data, so he wants to derive some insights, and he doesn't know a lot of things. So we have a low-coding environment, so he can just put the data, and then he'll come to know what are the best model to choose out of it, right? So we have such kind of an architecture built, and we use Postgres and NLPs. As she said, AI, NLP, or all these things is going to happen in next 2 years. Like I slightly object that it is happening now. So it is disrupting this carbon industry and EO industry now. It started already, so we are already seeing a lot of changes. It's happening, right? And we have ML flow. That is sort of like we do multiple experiments, hyper experiments, and all of this. So we wanted to see. The company wants to see, or someone wants to take a decision, okay, how the model is growing. So from 0 to 100, how it is growing. So we need to know the journey, right? So we have ML flow for it. And coming to different model sites, so for any carbon registry, if you are going, so there are 3 things you need to do. One is baseline evaluation. When you onboard a farm, when you put a farm for a carbon certification, so that farm should have some eligibility, right? So like we have some eligibility to get placed in some university or somewhere. So likewise, a farm is also having some eligibility. So we have 8 models to take care of it. And second is non-permanence risk. That is something like once a farm we have identified, those farms should not also have risk in future. So let's say I have identified a farm, and that farm is like very next to the river. So that is likely next 2 years, 3 years, or next 10 years a flood can come, right? So such kind of a risk modeling we need to do. So there are a lot of data sets available for it. And third comes the practice validation and monitoring, right? So when someone is like climbing, so okay, for example, agroforestry, ARR sort of projects. When someone is claiming, I have done the plantation, what is the proof for it? And who will check it? Like, as Durga said, like going to the ground every time, like let's say you are scaling a lot, and every year going to the ground and then seeing that. And also, like he said, I have planted 30 trees, and next year or 5 years later, 10 trees, because of mortality or because of any event, it could have removed, right? So we need to monitor it. So we need to monitor for those, and someone says like I'm using something like residue incorporation, or I'm using tillage. So we need to also monitor for it, right? So how to monitor it? So we have some models, not for all. Few things we have models. So ARR we have 7 models, and agriculture we have 5 models for it, right? So what are all different data sets we use? As we all know, in this particular open set, we have S1, S2, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2 Landsat. That is for basic analysis, and we also have access to Planet, WorldView, and Maxar data sets for some limited use cases, like where someone requires some, let's say he wants to understand it very meticulously by just seeing that, not understanding based on the analysis, by just seeing it. So we also have WorldView Maxar data set. And how it makes sense, right? So it's not something like we can make a model on our own, right? So I have some knowledge and I'm just building the model. How it makes sense to us, right? So someone has to come collaborate with us and then say, okay, this model is doing good, right? So for that we have collaborations with IIT Bombay, Kumara's lab. We have also collaboration with NASA Harvest. Like NASA Harvest, there is a part of the team, remote sensing team, who's also building some of the models for us. And we also have IIT Kharagpur collaboration for some of our things. And very limited collaborations with ICAR and NAISM in terms of like some specific use cases, right? So that's the package. I think combining, I would say this is a package, right? So this should be the package for delivering any good quality models. So what it will yield, right? So this is a tightly packed ecosystem, what I showed last time, right? So the tightly packed ecosystem includes remote sensing, includes AI, includes SME, includes data and research collaboration. Will help us to validate, meaning we have onboarded so many farms, right? So many farms is maybe 10x of this number. But what we have validated is like 12K hectare in ARR and 14K hectare in ALF, right? So those are all the farms which is validated and submitted for different registries. And what we validate? So I said like validation, what we validate on the ground, right? We validate it for conservation area. We validate it for remote sensing fitment. What is remote sensing fitment, right? Basically when we onboard a farm or any OI, that should be fitment for any RS analysis to happen. I cannot just onboard, let's say 0.1 acre of land just to do an analysis, right? So because the pixel alignment, for example, Sentinel-2 I'm talking about, the pixel alignment only will not happen inside it, right? So in those cases, running something on top of it and then providing some results to it doesn't make sense. Then I'll say this plot is not fit for any remote sensing or Sentinel-2 to happen. Same goes with Landsat, and same goes with any other satellite, right? And next comes the deforestation. So any farm should not have any deforestation, baseline trees, or any other land covers. Like there should not be any building, there should not be any water body, or there should not be any roads which is touching to it, right? So we need to make sure about it. And for example, the ARR, we need to validate deforestation. Let's say when I say I have planted it, we need to validate the plantation, right? So those things. And other than that, like tree count, canopy cover, canopy height, and AGB. Same with ALM. So we need to verify crop, validation, practice validation, SOC, and carbon quantification. Yes. So I'll go into use case specific. For example, this is my domain, so I just wanted to show that to you, right? So ARR, so for example, like how would this make sense, right? For example, when we have a model, when we have a farm, it goes into a series of lines to it, right? So it goes into first the polygon character, maybe whatever farms we onboard into the system, it may not be right always. Maybe there could be some issues with that, so we need to correct for it. There is an automated corrected system to it. And next comes like when someone's saying I onboarded a tree, so there should be a species to it, and there should be some geometry to it, right? So I have done in different spacings and all of this. So we have a tree species catalog which says, okay, this model is suitable for this particular tree species. So all rules and configuration has been done in this particular thing. And once that is done, so the configuration flow will automatically take those rules and then go for an implementation, right? So next comes the baseline evaluation criteria, as we talked about, RS fitment, and next it goes to conservation area. So it should not come under any reserve forest or maybe any Ramsar wetlands and all of this, right? So next is building water and shrubland analysis and deforestation detector, baseline trees, fire assessment, degradation, right? Once it is done, so then next the monitoring process will start. So what the monitoring process? So till this, it is applicable to submit a project to an any registry. Later that, we also need to monitor those farms. We need to monitor every 3 years or every 5 years. We need to monitor for plantation. We need to monitor for deforestation. And is there any fire event has happened? We need to monitor for it. And tree count. How many tree counts are there? And from there, like calculate tree height, AGB, and from there, like calculate the carbon. How much carbon is sequestered over a period of time, like every monitoring period, right? So that's the overall thing. So I'm going to talk about some specific challenges. I don't want to bore you like what we are doing, like different things. So I just wanted to talk about few challenges, what is there in this, right? So there are 6 challenges I'm going to talk about. One is using open data sets for all use cases, right? So for example, we have one data set. So that has been repurposed for multiple use cases. Just saying that, for example, ESA also has a tree, a forest map, right? But can that be used for a forest change reduction, right? So, but there could be answers, yes or no, but our answer is like no. Some cases, maybe Hansen, ESA, dynamic world, those cases like will misclassify the seasonal forest loss, right? So we should not use it. We should use a specific model which solves a specific case study. Second, resolution concerns. For example, like before 2016, we don't have anything on 10 meter resolution. We all have like everything on 30 meter. How do we find something on 30 meter? Let's say if one tree or a group of tree got cut, there is a scattered tree and it got cut. How do we get it? It's not possible with Landsat resolution, right? So how to solve for it? I have few things in my mind. I'll talk for it. Maybe I think I'll also get some ideas from you guys, like what's your thought process on it. Third is geography constraint. Let's say in some geographies, because of its nature of the terrain or nature of the area, there could be some problems with respect to the data, right? So data is not always consistent to us. What to do for it? For example, shadowed areas, mountain shadowed areas, what will happen and all of this, right? So second is seasonality issues. Example, India albino, Kharif season, we will not get any data. Sentinel-2, it's not possible at all. What to do for it? And maybe combination of these two, geography plus seasonality. So if SAR is not performing good and the season happened, there is a cloud cover, what will happen? Here we don't get any data only. What we will do for it? Next is like nature of plantation. So for example, there are different plantations, different species available, right? So deciduous trees, coniferous trees, dense plantation, shallow plantation and all, right? So all behaves very differently at different satellite data sets, right? So how to solve for that? And last one is like nature of plantation in terms of ground geography. Let's say when someone goes for any plantation or any agriculture crop, there is a spacing to it. Like in the ground, there is a spacing. Like I may go 1 meter, I may go 10 meter also, right? So how do we solve for that, right? So low density versus high density plantation, and maybe the underlying soil, right? Maybe the underlying soil is a black soil, right? So always, or a clay soil, it always holds good amount of water, right? So like when I see it from the top, it always has some issues in the satellite image, right? So every time I see some problems. How to do it? And the most important problem is like intercropping scenarios. So for example, even for a crop to get captured precisely, or maybe the afforestation, let's say, what is beneficial to the farmer at the initial phases of ARR is like to grow something along with it, right? So at that time, there is something growing, and the tree is also standing. What to do about it, right? So how to solve for it? So these are the things I'm going to talk about. From here, I just picked up a few uses. Like first thing, what I'm going to talk about is like SAR data issue in terms of terrain. So especially foreshortening and layovering, as we all know this concept, right? So this could have happened in few areas. What will happen? It may compress the area, or it may like extend the area a lot. So what this distortion will happen? So we will get the data for sure, but the data quality is so bad, right? So what we do, we also encounter a similar problem when we are analyzing data in our project, one of our project called Nepal. So this is like one of the project area, and here if you could see this area is completely stretched. You can see it was like completely stretched, right? So this used to happen in most of the terrain cases. Like here also you can see, here also you can see. This is because of terrain geometry, how it is, and it is so rolling terrain, Nepal, Himachal, how it is, right? So all these areas, entire Himalayas, this is how it is going to be. So getting the farm in this particular area, it's very, very difficult, and we are getting signals something like this, right? So usually every agriculture time series VH backscattering should come during the time of sowing. It should go below -16 or -17 at least, but we haven't seen such kind of a cases. So most of our models were showing issue. So how it should look like, right? So this is the normal agriculture farm, like other than good area. Let's say if it is in a very good terrain, this is how it should look like. So here, this is how it should look like, but it is looking something like that, right? So what we do? So what we have done is like, we know specific cases where it will not happen. So we built our own sort of a data evaluation system before it goes to the model. It just check for the data, the basic qualities of the data, whether all the data is like, if it is in agriculture, sometimes it should go below -16 or something, right? So to have such kind of a data quality assurance system will make your model better, right? So you can clearly flag, okay, the data is not coming out good, I will not process this data, I will say like data is not available, or choose a different data set, maybe. Here maybe like Sentinel-1 might not work, maybe go for Sentinel-2. Right, so here what we have done is like, our solution is like, we have used Sentinel-2 and also a specific window. As I said, the combination was very worst here because most of the time it was cloud cover, and very few times the data was available and SAR data was affected, so we couldn't do anything. So we used just a specific period of time data, and then we processed it, right? So that's where we are solving it for this particular one. I'll just keep this one open, and maybe we can have a discussion later. So second comes plantation. Like here I said apple plantation, but there are very specific plantation. Let's say apple is one, and mango also. If you do 10-meter plantation or anything like more than 10 meter, at very initial phases, first 3 years, 4 years, we cannot even detect that in high-res imageries, especially during the leaf shedding times, right? So there is a characteristics of a phenology. So at very specific time, the plant used to shed the leaves. So what it means, like it will shed and then regrow after the spring season, right? So that time what will happen? Even what we have found is like even 30 centimeter, 50 centimeter data also could not able to detect any trees on the ground, right? So what will happen to those scenarios? How we can able to solve that for, right? So that is second. Like few examples, like how the trees will look like, For example, you can see this one. This is apple tree, how it will looks like. This is 2-3 years plantation, and the other one is like 4 years plantation, right? So this is how it will look like. So in high resolution imagery, it's very it is not possible for anything to get detected. The main problem with that is, as I said, if we try to get the images during the growing season, it's not possible. The images are not available because of cloud cover. But when the images are available, the plantation characteristics is something like this, right? So what do we do for that? So here, what we have done, so we have used a sort of a logic to detect, okay, if something over a period of time, something changes year by year, so we can able to detect that by looking at that changes, right? So use high resolution imageries, use planet or use Maxar data, see every year what is the change in reflectance value. If it is like keep on increasing, then it means that something is there in that, right? That's how we have defined our solution. Coming to the last point, so this is a very important point I would like to discuss, right? So let's say there is a afforestation and juvenile trees. Let's say, as I said, we have planted a tree on the ground. How do we say, okay, the number of trees? How do we detect, for example, the loss? Example, because of mortality, maybe you have planted 5 trees because of mortality nature. After 1 year, maybe 5 trees may fail, right? So how to detect for it? And maybe like someone on the ground, he might have tagged the entire area, but the plantation has done in small area. And GPS issue is all we know. And last one is like deforestation, right? So he has intentionally cut after 2 years, 3 years because he wants to grow in high commodity plantation or something, right? So what to do about it? So here what we have done is like we have built our own model 2 ways. One is to detect our model, like the left hand side, the first image, what you see, this is the original high resolution Google screenshots, and this is our tree model, like what we have built based on Sentinel-2, basically using deep learning models. So combination of unit plus. So the comparison, the same with meta tree cover. If you are not sure about what is meta tree cover is like 1 meter data, right? So it's 1 meter data. It has used Maxar's 2020 entire global composite, and it was built by Meta, so they have used Dino V2 algorithm to detect it, right? So it was so accurate in a lot of areas, but it's not 100% accurate, right? So in few areas in our farms, what we could compare is like our model was pretty much doing good comparative to that particular model, right? So maybe I think because of some losses in their data, or maybe the model was not properly trained, but we are not sure about it. But our model, compared to that data, it was performing really good. So how it is doing good, right? So how much it is doing good? Is it 100%? No, because Sentinel-2 has its own problem, right? So Sentinel-2, it's 10 meter data. It can able to detect to certain extent only, right? So 80-85% is its limitation. Above that, like we need to rely on some other sources, right? So is Meta can help us? No, Meta is already losing in a lot of our areas. So how we can able to solve this? So we have built our own, is this image clear? Clear? Okay, yes. So we have built our own model to detect 2 different cases, right? So using high-res imagery. So first, to detect juvenile trees. So let's say after 2 years of plantation, we wanted to detect the juvenile trees, right? So this model will detect all juvenile trees in this particular this one, and then it will also give the probability scores. For example, like if you are not very like if you need a very high confident model, we can able to put a threshold here and then get the high confident results from this, right? So this way, the problem of Sentinel-2 high resolution data can be solved in this to detect the juvenile trees, and also for a tree counting use cases where it is metas failing and other things are failing, we can also use high resolution images to detect the number of trees, and this can be made it as a product year on year basis to see how much trees are coming, and then if the number is decreasing, maybe we can able to attribute to that loss, like okay, it could have deforested, it could have failed because of mortality and all. So I think that's all from my side. So I think I'll stop here before going to the next slides. Maybe happy to take questions.
Have you tried super resolution?
Yes.
And does it work?
Yes, I think these are all super resolution use cases, the tree detection models.
But they were not on high-res, these are on Sentinel-2?
This is on Maxar datasets.
But, so super resolution is like you improve your Sentinel-2 imagery to one.
Oh, okay. You mean to say like Sentinel-2 super resolution? We have read about it, but we haven't implemented Sentinel-2 to super resolution.
So I've seen mixed use cases of this. Some people do farm boundary detection, crop detection. They've seen very good results in some areas.
But the problem what we could found in super resolution is because it is super resolution, like sort of a downscaling problem. The objects, whatever is visible in the high like Sentinel-2, when we downscale it to a super resolution scale. So, for example, like I think we did a few analysis. My team member can add. So, like there was one building, right? So the building shape is something like a sort of a spherical shape, but in an actual high resolution imagery, it is sort of square shape. But when we make a super resolution product out of it, like it is losing that information. That loss is there when we convert into a super resolution product. That's the reason why we couldn't able to do that particular super resolution step.
You already have the high resolution imagery. It's for your region. It's worth training the model because it's suited to your region and seen good results for crops. So this is something to.
Okay, thank you.
One thing, the tree count detection that you're doing, this is on the RGB imagery or you're using the satellite, the multispectral data there?
It's using RGB images. Most of the high-res imageries, it comes with RGB composite only. So if you need like any other NIR composite, you need to give a special request to them, and it's too costly.
The super resolution can help there. Then I think I have tried it with text data before, and there I was and I was doing the object detection only. So you are also doing object detection there, right? And since these kind of images seems sparse, although they are small objects, but still far off, should be able to detect. In my case, it did not work out as well as I mentioned. I had a mixed opinion about it. Seems like a good option to do.
Urban it fails very often. Like you said, the building stuff it fails quite often. And for crops it works, but you have to train for your specific crop region.
Right.
What you were talking about, the field boundary are very static. They not change oftentimes. But what he is talking, object at the tree or any buildings, it's changed oftentimes. So your super resolution based that high resolution image, if it is not with the recent data, it's not synced, then your result could be different.
That's why I was curious if it worked or not, because everybody has a mixed opinion on that.
The debate happens in LinkedIn, so I follow that debate. People are saying super resolution, the reference image, which based on your super resolution, if it is not synced with your current image, the result could be different.
Yeah, also on that point, I just want to add that DN value also changes. Like for the
Exactly.
Exactly. Like the
static object can be done.
Yeah. For the boundary detection, it's okay, I think. But we try to identify several indices. We try with that. But the problem is that, as you already mentioned, the change in shape of the building, as well as some fields also we look at the changes, like the shift in the shape. So in that case, the DN value changes, and if the DN value changes, we can't do it.
Exactly. Agree.
This is one problem.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think in India there's 5-meter resolution that has been released. I don't know if
List
it's
for
possible.
satellite?
I think it was announced in
Yeah.
I don't know if it's useful.
Not latest works.
List 4, yes, they have made it available for public use recently.
That is not latest.
Yeah, correct.
Still, if it could help on the, because I think yes, super resolution might be something.
The problem is like we tried our possible solution even with planar data, which is like 3-meter resolution in case, right? So there also, because it's 3 meter, it's 30 centimeter data, right? So there is a difference, 10x difference between this. So 5 meter, it can be helpful for ourselves to monitor it, like maybe like if it is increasing, decreasing, the change monitoring we can do. But individual object detection cases, I feel that LIS4 data, it can be used for monitoring purposes, like it's increasing, decreasing trend, sort of.
So what type is your, what resolution you like to
It's
do?
30 centimeter data.
Yeah, that's very high.
So this model is built on some open source algorithms or like?
Yeah. Mostly like we deal it on open source algorithms, right? Like UNet++, UNet, YOLO. YOLO has different versions, V7, V8.
So what is this? You can say.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Predominantly, the baseline models has based on UNet, and we also like have a sophisticated model on YOLO. Because like YOLO, the advantage of YOLO is like it's faster, and it has tendency to produce the results with less number of input data sets. Yeah.
Did you try faster RCN?
Faster RCN is like, yes, at the baseline scenario we tried, but at that time only we sort of discarded it because the UNet++ was performing good then.
For the satellite, for the layover and foreshadowing, so you're telling that SAR images have that kind of artifacts inbuilt in it. So like when you try with high resolution SAR images, like those kind of wear off. I mean, now you are able to get very less of layovers and foreshadowing. So have you tried with very high resolution of SAR images in those cases?
No, because like we tried for it. ISAT is there. ISAT we checked, but ISAT does not have VH1, which is like very essential for any this monitoring, right? So plantation monitoring, we couldn't able to get anything. Especially the regions like Himalayas, Nepal regions, most of the companies does not have data even now, right? So that's the problem with the SAR currently. Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any?
There's a problem when you go to militaries.
Yeah. Because the incident angle plays a major role, and you will always need to do a side looking. So for side looking at say 30 degree, 40 degree, there is always this.
There always will be.
So you can't avoid.
But when you task, you can change the incidence angle. I mean,
But to image the SAR image, the whole concept is side looking.
It is side looking.
So if you do it at Nadir, the whole concept.
No, nothing. I mean, you can still change the incidence angle, say from, if it is like 40 degrees, you can bring it down to 25 and reduce what you want to do. Say you want to reduce the layover, then you can ask for an image which has less layover, I mean less of incidence angle. Or, I mean, that way.
But I think in the hilly terrains, it will be always.
Yeah, it is always.
It is there, for sure, it is there.
Even if we try with 20 degrees also.
Only way you can solve is you need to do it at Nadir, then the whole concept of
SARs.
Yeah, like you can do, they do actually, but only thing is you get.
Post-processing we can do maybe some resolution loss, some kind of less accuracy, but we'll get a better data with some post-processing. You can improve it, but
your water will have more backscatter when you do it at Nadir.
Yeah, it will
It'll
change
the whole thing is changed. But have you tried the what do you call it? There is terrain flattening algorithms. It is on top of DEMS. So did it improve or?
terrain correction?
No, terrain flattening algorithm.
Dam in that area is either expensive or.
No, there are like I think 30-meter DEMS.
30-meter DEMS are free to use.
Yeah, still. The resolution itself is 20 meters. So
it's just a post-processing, right?
Yeah, they reconstruct the data. Like I'm asking, did you find any useful outcomes that you can try? Maybe
We didn't.
See, I have tried it. Works good for like if it is a normal area where it's a little unpleasant, but if it's a very fully hilly area like Nepal, I am doubtful even after terrain correction there will be still some more
terrain flattening. I'm talking about the next level.
Terrain flattening also.
Terrain
I have a feeling what I have tried was not working good, but yeah.
If you go back to the slide once. So there is a contrast color, right? Like the black and this. So that gets fitted
Yeah,
out.
it
That
can improve it a lot.
that's what I've seen, but I don't know if that really helps here.
So that you can get it from speckle filtering also.
No. That is different, right? So that doesn't alter the whole thing. That is like you can see this black and white spots, which gets somewhat smoothened out. But I'm saying the left side is comparatively lighter and the right
speckle
side.
filtering will change a small area, like it's an 3x3 or 5x3 operation, right? It changes very small.
I'm saying
this is macro level.
The contrast between the downward side, the left side and the right side, it's quite high. So that gets reduced.
The stretching will become reduced and the layer will become like the correction will happen. The speckle filtering you just removes. There are noises there, it will be removed, but not the undulations due to the terrain. That effect won't be removed. If you haven't tried, that will be good.
Great.
The confidence code that you are mentioning there, those are softmax of the boundary boxes or some uncertainty analysis you are doing there?
It's softmax scores.
I have a question, not regarding this, but the count of trees that you are showing. Right? So when we start plantation, it basically is a very small plant, right? We cannot see from above. So for the first 2 years, what do you do for this count identification?
We need to rely only just on photographs.
Only on manual data, or like is it some other way also, like drone-based surveillance?
No, drone is so expensive. Like sending a person to the farm and then taking photographs, like taking photographs at latitude, longitude, and keeping him within the boundary. I think that's a cheaper solution for it. We actually tried for a drone as well, but when we see the cost, it was so expensive. Because like as I told you, like our scale is massive. I cannot able to put that for 12K hectares, which is spread across different locations. So drone, it was a good solution for a specific cases, like if someone project developer wants to have a drone, if he tries to invest it, yes, we can do it. Or otherwise, the best solution is photographs, first 2 years. And it's not only first 2 years, by the way, right? So it depends on crop to crop, so tree to tree.
Mortality, you use sample sets. You won't be going for the full harvest rate.
Sorry, come again?
For the mortality analysis, there's the tree count. You operate on a sample set.
Yeah, that's a systemic procedure, right? So we have our project team, so we'll be always doing this particular analysis. Like take, this concept, right? So there is a monitoring plot, and there is this. They put a system around the entire project area and then monitor a few of the species, like 10% of the species, and then see how much is happening, and that's how they calculate the mortality.
It's a rolling sample set.
How do you manage all your training using ML flow? So if there are like multiple people in the team and everyone is doing on the same project, like everyone has their own, or do you like
so every model should have a let's say a primary tag to it, and then like every experiments, like we do hyper experiments, right? Every experiment should have an ID. Okay, for example, deforestation, and underscore like different IDs to it, and every ID should have its own tagging system background, right? So there should be a username to it when someone is submitting in a notebook or whatever system it is. There should be a name tag to it, and what else the data set he has used. So that location of S3 or any location he can give, and like all these things he needs to tag that. So that way I think it will be like that's a config file before running the model. You need to always give.
So like once say I do experiments and one of my colleagues does experiments, they do it on their own system, say suppose. Now I want to bring all these experiments that we have done together.
So there is a centralized ML flow like hosted in a particular server, so everybody can able to access it.
So each time when you run an experiment, you call an S3 bucket. So each time you pay for the experiment. As in, suppose you want to run.
Like ML flow is hosted in.
No, not ML flow. Say you are running an experiment, you want to call say maxar data for training the model. So each time you download the data from S3 and then on your machine,
Yeah.
and then you
That's so see, for example, the specific use cases, if you like to talk let's say Maxar images, that will be there in EBS. Like every system's EBS is EBS. Okay. And once this one is over, then EBS will be transferred to S3.
And within the same EBS, you don't have to pay.
Then you don't have to
if you are in the same.
Otherwise, I was thinking you're calling S3 each time.
It's our own network, so you don't have to pay. You can transfer as much you want right now.
What are you doing to solve the cloud problem? It's a big problem.
I think it'll happen once I think God Varun plays some role and he'll.
Yeah, solving
Galaxy.
Yeah, we're working on the fusion of SAR and optical.
Okay.
And that will solve it.
Both sets are the same satellite, so the snapshot will be taken at the same time.
Yeah.
But still, when you don't have the optical.
That is why you collect
fuse
both and then.
I think you are this one. What is that? What is that model? OptiSAR.
So it is a degeneration model.
Similar to that, like using Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2 time series data, you make an optical, like synthetic optical data out of it.
Like a SAR-G.
Even the Presto algorithm, right? So they actually have their own, like in one of their paper, they reconstructed like how whenever there is missing data, they try
Or not basically the auto masking algorithm. So it predicts the mask basically. There also they have NDVA as one of the bands, so they are using it as part of training procedure itself.
Oh. So maybe it
can be configured or tuned further to do that kind of job. And recently there were some papers also who have done better job of cloud prediction or cloud removal or NDVA prediction kind of thing.
It might work for say like static things which are not changing much.
Yeah, exactly. That's a similar. Yeah.
You're generating so.
That's a similar problem. Like in agriculture scenario, when the crop is growing, SAR cannot able to replicate what greenness it is. So that logic fundamentally it is missing between this. Like in terms of
from the business point of view, you don't want optical or SAR. You want to solve the problem, right? So if it is able to predict how the trend is going to be like. For example, you don't want the raw band to be calculated, or maybe some approximate value of NDVA, if it can be extrapolated. That solves the problem. We don't want to know exactly what the value would be. Technically, yes, we all want to have the best possible precise value, but from business point of view, if it solves for you to detect your tree, you're sorted.
Yeah, so in that case, yes. For example, like tree cases, it will obviously work. But what I'm talking is like frequent changing basis, right? So for example, crop-like situation. So every 5 days or like after crop reaches vegetative, like during the vegetative period, it changes so dynamically, right? So every 5 days, the crop growth is so big, right? So for example, 20th day to 40th day, you will see NDVA changes like this much, right? So 0.3 to 0.6. So that change, detecting that using fusion, will like I feel that like in terms of computer knowledge, yes, it makes sense. But when it comes to the knowledge science and agriculture application, it really since I think.
So my counter to that would be you have this NDVA plots, right, or whatever VA plots. NDVA also looks somewhat similar only, right? Each pixel on the plot also varies quite a bit in terms of the NDVI. The pattern overall that we get out of the average of the plot, or whatever cloud removal, noise removal, after that we get, that is what we use to make our predictions. If
but
we get
the basic I understand the cyclical nature, but here the cyclical nature is defined based on the backscattering. For example, like what is the object is there on? Is it a volume scattering or is it a specular scattering? But when it comes to NDVI, it's just the top of the canopy. Like if it is looking green, okay, it looks green. But if it is canola, like rapeseed mustard.
Is that for if this is a palm, each pixel's pattern is bit jagged, sawtooth pattern kind of you can see there. It is not uniform for all the pixels. They all do not follow the same curve. Otherwise, it would have been a single line. We get this thick band, which is following this cyclic pattern. So each pixel is also varying, like that. some approximation is already inbuilt into the final algorithm which we are using to classify that crop. So if this optis R or anything new modality we feed into it, like retrofits, multiple other things as well. If we can get some approximation of the value that we should have, we should get to correctly classify that thing. Isn't it good enough? I'm just talking about good enough. I'm not talking about precise enough.
Yeah, see, I think that good enough is like, how much is good enough? Like 70%, 80% good enough is a big question, right? So, yes, it will definitely do justice, like to get to some, for example, accuracy to 60 to 70%, definitely it does. But overall scale, like for example, one thing I said, canola. During the flowering stage, it looks yellow. So the greenness goes down, the reflectance value goes down. But the sentinel-1, the backscattering still remains the same. So if we reconstruct based on this relation, then I think it will create a different thing.
There has to be some agronomy information, which crop or tree or whatever you are working with. Like in this particular case, yes, it would not correlate directly, but in other case it would. So that information or that fine tuning on that data set should happen. That I guess. That I guess.
And also the soil moisture plays a lot of role.
Exactly.
Backscatter works. If you're on the day of if your farm is dry, you may get a less backscatter work. If the farm is wet, you may get a more scattering. So then.
If that is also part of your model data.
Yeah, again, getting a soil moisture information at a farm level, again, you need to put a sensor, then there is a lot of things. Yeah, if you have all the data, still you will get a very good model. Okay. The problem is like with the scarce data, how to get the best model. Right?
It's work in progress.
Any more questions?
Yes, last slide. So our goal by 2028, we wanted to sequestrate more and live a good environment going forward. That's our goal. Thanks.
Thank you, Aravind. Thanks for the presentation, and I hope you all enjoyed. So maybe we'll just take a moment to appreciate again. So Vishal, if you could talk a little bit about what you are doing, and maybe and also a request to everyone who's here, if your org is willing to host these kind of events, we'll be happy to collaborate with you and host more and more events so that we gather around and then network in this kind of ecosystem and grow ourselves as well. So yeah, happy to chat with you after this. So yeah, Vishal, if you can.
But yeah, before I speak, anyone wants to speak about your company?
Yeah, maybe you can take the lead and then maybe we'll
Yeah, I'll do that. So yeah, I mean, it's great to have you all here and happy to provide space. I would love to provide space for more such events. So this is anyways by the community, for the community. So great to see you all here, and it brings me back to my good old days. I used to be part of hosting AWS communities back in 2015. So yeah, brings back good old memories. By the way, that gives away my age. I have 15 years of experience. So yeah, quite some experience there. So, but yeah, I mean, we are building. We are a project developer, right? In an essence. So we didn't start with being a project developer like any other startup. We wanted to be building a scalable SaaS product, right? I mean, that's the VC dream, right? We wanted to build a VC dream, build a SaaS product, scale it, make a lot of money, right? That's the dream. But when we started, we very quickly realized this is not a problem of tech that we are solving, right? We can't just build a tech product and solve this climate problem. We have to be on the ground, solve this on the ground, inject tech into this problem, solve it in a way where we make solutions transparent, build buyer trust, have people put money into solutions, make the what is happening on the ground very transparently visible to the buyers, and that's how you scale this entire ecosystem, right? That's the learning we got after we started this company like 6-7 months into the company, right? And that's when we pivoted. In the first 6 months only we pivoted, and then we started becoming a project developer. So we are a tech-led project developer. So essentially that's what we are building. And I think there is one quote which I think very famous. Sam Altman said, build a difficult company. It's easier to build a difficult company, right? That's what people keep hearing. Trust me, it's not easy to build a difficult company. We are building a difficult company. I mean, Aravind showed a lot of slides. It looks fun when we talk about it. We have spent sleepless nights doing that stuff. It's difficult. Oftentimes we have frustrating Friday evenings. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but at the end of the day, it's an engineer's dream to build those, right? So you find these, I mean, when we talk about it on a slide, we find ourselves in pride talking about that, and it's great to talk about all these models. So yeah, I mean, it's an engineer's dream. We are building that. So we will talk more endlessly about this. I can speak for an entire day about all the things that we are building, but happy to answer any of your queries. Great to see you all. And we are endlessly always hiring. So if you or your friends are looking out for a job and want to build something as easy as this, so please feel free to talk to us or all my colleagues here, and happy to discuss more. And anyways, carbon is a bigger problem to solve. Whether you build with us or build at your own firm, keep building and keep continuing to solve this problem. Right? Thank you.